pink.
Although my
Oh my
ears
gosh, you guys, this is gonna be very funny.
Be very
Okay, it's setting us up. We're about to be live. We might actually be live now. Sometimes it's like, okay, yeah,
Hi.
redirecting to
Good.
YouTube.
Well, I'm subscribed, so I should get the hit.
You should get the alert, right?
Yeah.
Priyanka, have you been getting alerts when we go live on Mondays?
Yes, I have.
Okay, cool. That's good. After I realized that I'd been telling people that, but I didn't actually know for sure if that was the case. So
As
okay,
John Trainer
there we
calls
go.
it, apparently I'm a lurker on Slack and on this live stream too.
Yeah, that sounds about right. I mean,
people
you're not
like
the
that.
only one. There's a lot of lurkers. Okay, we are live. So I'm gonna take the link, and if one of you wouldn't, well, I guess I can post it in Slack. Does one of you want to post it?
You posted in Slack. Go for it.
Not finding it.
All right, there's the
Take the
link
pressure off of
if any of you want to post it on social media or anything. Okay, we'll give it just a second to post it everywhere.
Oh, I see us.
You see us.
Oh, that's so
That's
Flips the
us on
screen.
YouTube. It's live. Don't say anything you wouldn't want the boys to hear.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Sorry, I've got like 30 tabs open right now, so my computer's slow. 1 second.
Oh gosh.
Should post them online. Oh, it's so
What a
weird.
good friend.
On.
Okay.
I do like the fact that you can, yeah, this is coming off. I can't, I'm done.
The real things that matter.
I can't.
Sorry, you guys. My computer's kind of freaking out right now. 1 second.
Oh.
What is happening?
Can you guys hear the pings?
John's already in the chat. He's already in the chat. I see you, John.
We love to see it.
No, but I can see 11
We
people
love to
watching.
see it.
All you do is lurk, Priyanka. Rude. I'm an active participant.
Pri is an active participant. There's about 115 people who are not active participants.
Exactly. We're more
Right.
participant than a lot of people.
Yeah, it's true. All you lurkers out there,
Thank you.
you better start participating. Okay. My computer is slow, and normally
My friend Megan's on. Hi, Megan.
Hi, Michelle.
Okay.
Their entire home. Great.
Our
Okay.
entire apartment is here. Great.
Hi, boys.
Hello,
Who just said that? That the entire apartment's here?
John.
John. I think
They're-
he's the
they're watching us on
spokesperson for the manor
They're watching
today.
us on the TV at their apartment. So bad.
My gosh.
They're
Wow.
having a game watch. Oh, big yikes, you guys. Okay. All right, let's pray really quick.
Pray.
I will pray. I'll lead us in prayer. Sorry, usually like my computer is really slow right now. Okay, I'm gonna lead us in prayer, and then we'll get right to it. We'll do intros because I think there's a lot of people watching who are not necessarily our people, who know each of us. So I'm refreshing. Okay, let's pray. Are you guys there? Can you hear me? It's all good.
Yep.
Yep.
All right. In the name of the Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Amen. Lord, thank you so much for this technology, for this opportunity to have this important conversation today, and to share it with all the people watching online. Thank you so much for the community that you have helped us create and facilitate during this quarantine time. It's been such a hard time, but you have provided us so many opportunities to connect and to engage on the issues that inevitably lead us closer to you. So we're so grateful. Thank you for that. And we ask that you enter into our conversation tonight. Help us to speak only your truth and use us as vessels. We just want to be vessels for your message and for your word. So we ask that you empty us of self and fill us up with your word and with everything that you want us to share tonight. And we ask this, Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. And art thou among women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus. Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now and at the hour of our death. Amen. Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Amen. Holy 20. Oh my gosh, Kevin says, already have more people watching at once than the boys. 21 watching now. John, are you asking if I'm
in Michael Scott's office?
I'm in Marie.
Okay, why are you not on the floor?
Which is basically Michael Scott's office. Okay, I'm gonna ignore the YouTube chat for now. We're gonna do intros first. Amazing. The boys just sent me. We're on their TV.
No.
All right.
Love to see it.
Oh,
All right.
great.
You'll love to see it. Okay, intros. So let's go around. I want to know, who are you? Say your name, say where you're originally from. What do you do for a living? And how did you get connected with St. Al's? Which anyone who's, well, actually, I do this every time. Let me give some context first. Why are we doing this? So a couple weeks ago, we're all in a Slack group together through St. Alphonsus, which is our parish. And there's a huge young adult community. It's this beautiful young adult community in Chicago in Lakeview neighborhood. And there was some conversation over the last few weeks as quarantine started about, creating media that people can consume online and using this time well and in a way that is fruitful and in a way that is good, as opposed to using the internet for the things we should not be using the internet for, which I don't need to name those, people know what they are. So a group of the guys got together and wanted to do this live stream, and there was a lot of conversation about whether or not some women should be asked to be a part of that conversation. And I think the three of us separately had all kind of talked in some shape or form about, there should be women or something like that. And then it came up in this last week that we should just forget, infiltrating the boys stream. We'll just do a women's live stream and just talk about the topics that we want to talk about instead of, trying to squeeze it into them joking about SparkoCam and whatever else. So that's what we are here to do today, which is so exciting. I'm pumped. So we'll do some general intros. I think there are people here who don't necessarily know all of us. So I don't know, Marie, if you want to start, like I said, we'll do, what's your name? What do you do? How did you get connected with St. Al's? And maybe where are you originally from and how did you come to the Chicago area, to Chicago?
Sure. So my name is Marie Athaide. I'm from Atlanta. I moved up here in December. So I went to Georgia Tech, originally from Atlanta, as I said, so was there my whole life. I worked there after graduation for, I guess, almost 3.5 years. It was January, so June will be 4 years at my company. So yeah, I ended up coming to Chicago, actually, lots of reasons, but mainly I felt God just being try something new and different. And I just felt like I had to push myself and get out. My clients were here, so I came up here a few times. My friend's boyfriend was up here, so I got to see him when I would come for work trips and stuff. So kind of how I ended up here. I just switched offices back in December. So love the new friends that I made too. How I got connected with St. Al's, my friend's boyfriend, when I came to visit, he went to St. Al's. So anyways, when I moved up here, he was like, you should go there. There's a great young adult community. I had an awesome community in Atlanta at my parish. So that was really important to me. So anyways, just started going to church there. I went to the Tacky Christmas sweater party by myself and just hey, I'm Marie. Went to yeah, exactly. Just kind of went to things that people invited me to after that point and just showed up. So that's how I got involved and connected with the St. Al's group. I implement software for a living. Yeah, sorry, I don't think I said that. So really thrilling, changing the world in so many ways by like being on the computer all day. So yeah, that's me.
Nice. Jackie, Pri, who wants to go next?
Free.
Jackie, you want
Oh.
Pri to go?
Goes in order of the square.
Okay. All right.
Oh,
Go ahead.
okay, great. So I go by Pri, but I'm Priyanka Golwala. I'm a Catholic convert. I went to Loyola University, go Blurs. And after graduating, I fell into healthcare communications, thought I was going to work on the Hill and fell into healthcare communications, which is a really unique and exciting time to be part of right now. Just given our current climate and all things coronavirus. So I get to be a pseudoscientist, I like to say. Don't actually ask me about chemical compounds and stuff. I have no clue what's going on. But my doctors probably think I'm a hypochondriac the way I talk to them, so it's funny.
I feel that. I'm a hypochondriac.
But I joined the St. Al's community after doing my little stint of church shopping, and being that I was at Loyola and had such a great community there, I really wanted to find a vibrant community elsewhere, just because I'd outgrown the homilies that resonated more with students. So shout out to Sarah Early, now Sarah Conover, and Michelle McAvoy for getting me plugged in to the St. Al's community and all things St. Al's. And I haven't looked back since last summer.
Awesome.
Nice.
Jackie?
Hi, my name is Jackie. I'm originally from Steubenville, Ohio, and I did go to school in Steubenville at Franciscan. And I moved to Chicago in 2018 for a job. I felt God really calling me to serve at a very unique mission, serving men that are victims of sex trafficking. So I did that for a year. But now I work in pro-life work like Mary Kate. I work in development for Aid for Women. It's amazing. And I ended up at St. Al's because someone else that I went to school with at Franciscan moved to LaGrange, and she found out about St. Al's somehow, I don't know, but she joined me, she welcomed me to join a women's group that Mary Kate was actually the head of at the time. So that's how we met. And then I just stuck around because St. Al's has a great young adult community. So yeah.
Awesome. Nice. I am Mary Kate. I work in pro-life, as Jackie mentioned. I work for Illinois Right to Life. And how did I end up at St. Al's? Actually, I think my sister is now married to one of the guys who he's the former president of Young Adult Ministry at St. Al's. And I think I met, and Melanie Wood, one of my best friends, she kind of roped me in. So got into St. Al's maybe 3 years ago. And I've just been going to stuff, doing all the things. I went to the University of Iowa, went to Loyola for a year. Did you know that, Pri? I actually went to Loyola my freshman year.
Didn't
and
know.
and I transferred out to Iowa. And maybe for reasons that we'll talk about, because hashtag dating. And there were other reasons, don't worry, I'm just kidding. And so did all that, and my family's originally from the area, so I am currently in Joliet, but moving back up to the city in 8 days, 9 days. Yeah, so praise God.
Who's counting?
Pumped. So cool. Thanks for that, guys. We are going to talk about dating, Catholic dating. But Marie pointed out that it's really not Catholic dating, it's just dating, which is true. This is an issue that I think you have to be super careful talking about Catholic dating, because I think that it gets so repetitive. And I think specifically with women, and we've talked about this, I think specifically with women, and I know that some of the guys have this complaint that it gets very like, I'm just gonna complain and lament about how hard and awful dating is. I had numerous guys reach out to me today. I think I told you guys that, or we talked about it. Numerous guys reached out to me today and were like, are you really going to talk about dating? But I think it's an important topic. I think it's a topic that everyone's interested in, because it's something that many of us, not all of us, obviously, we have seminarian friends who are not necessarily actively dating right now, or shouldn't be anyway. I don't know. But so it's something that I think a lot of people are
calling people out, Mary Kate.
No, I'm not. Oh my gosh, my phone's gonna be blowing up in a second. No, I'm not. That was just a joke. It was just a joke, guys. Sorry. Yeah. So it's an important topic. I think there's a lot we could say about it. We are going to really try to take some nuanced perspectives on this. So the first question that was posed in our conversations that I think is a good segue into the general conversation is, what as Catholic women are you actually looking for in a significant other? Like, what are some of the things that you really feel yourself seeking out? If you meet someone, whether it's at a Catholic event, like at, Theology on Tap at St. Al's, or you're at a bar and a guy approaches you, like, what are the things that you're initially kind of looking for? Initial thoughts. Who wants to go first?
Just a loaded question.
Well, I guess for me, of course, like sharing the mutual faith life is really important to me. I don't know if you're talking about like when you just meet someone right away, because I don't know how you would know that, Mary Kate, or just in general.
Yeah. What was that? I'm sorry.
I don't know if you're talking about like when you meet someone right away, what you're looking for, or like as you just in general, like the kind of person you would want.
In general, yeah. I think like if there are things right off the bat that you are really, I think it's personal. I think that there are things that people, when they first meet someone and are in conversation, that they're kind of like thinking in the back of their mind about. So like the Catholic thing being one of them. I can say that for myself for sure. I've kind of been there, done that with regards to like dating people who aren't Catholic, and that's something that we're going to talk about later on. But so I think that it's personal. I think that that's something obviously that is maybe like an initial, like right off the bat question that you ask. But more generally, what are some of the very specific things that as time goes on that you find yourself sort of seeking?
I can go. So it's funny you say like the first thing like you talk about is like your faith in Catholic. So for me, it's actually like humility. It's probably the number one thing that I'm attracted to in a guy, because you can tell that like pretty quickly when you're talking to somebody, meet them at the bar, meet them at some event, whatever it is. So I would say humility is number one. I think faith is really important, but with faith comes like values, right? And just like the way that they treat other people around you, whether that's, again, one of the first few times that you see them or meet them or hang out with them. I think it's pretty underrated. I know a lot of friends that have not had that situation. So it's been really important for me as I, think about that and what I'm attracted to in a guy. Faith is important for sure. And I think, I love being outside and just doing outdoor things. So just like things to connect on, common passions and hobbies. And so just like camping, hiking, like I love just like those types of activities. So I'd say for me, those are kind of like the first things, that I would look for, not just look for, but that I'm attracted to, I guess. And then as you get to know somebody, it's like, if they are very family oriented, I think you guys, correct me if I'm wrong, but as a woman, it's really cool to see guys that like really value their relationship with their mother, or, maybe if they don't have a really great relationship with her, at least like other women in their life, right? Their sisters, just the way that they treat people. So those are my first kind of thoughts.
Marie, when you say that, like one of the initial things you look for is humility, what practically speaking does that look like for you? Like, how do you find yourself? Like, do you have like an example of maybe like an interaction that you had with someone that you like, he said something, or you like asked a question and his response, you were like, know what I'm saying?
Yeah, girl, I know what you're saying. So I'm not thinking of a specific guy. I mean, I'm just playing out a scenario where I've been able to figure it out, and it's been really like inspiring to me. So honestly, just like talking about like, what do you do? Very common question, right? And sometimes the way that people explain what they do says a lot about what they care about or what's important, right? Or how much they value that thing. So very simple example, but just talking about like work or something that they're passionate about, and, not I guess a practical example, like, oh yeah, what do you do? Oh yeah, I'm a financial analyst, example, right? Instead of someone that's like, oh yeah, like I, won all of the awards for like my company in the last year, right? Like these things are good and they're awesome and we need to talk about them, but like that's a very, very simple, practical example I can think of.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
For you, Jackie, what do you guys think? You got any thoughts?
Kind of like Marie said, for me, it's definitely, you look to see if there's like a flow to the conversation, if you have mutual interests. Like I myself, I was an English major, so I'm really into reading just a lot of different topics, psychology, theology, philosophy, and I want to be able to hold some kind of conversation of substance. I'm not really a small talk kind of person, so if that's there, that's attractive, and that's a sign that we could possibly, have fun on a date or something. Yeah.
Small talk. Nice.
For sure.
Like I'm on a dating
opposite.
show.
I was just about to say,
Like I think I'm
dating
on a
app.
date with
Like,
all
thinking
three of
about
you.
questions.
Like I know. I'm like, shoot, this
what
is
do
what
you
they
do
ask.
for a living?
Like, I know.
I'm sitting here thinking about the questions that I'm asking. And I'm like, I am just creating profiles for us. Like, it's
I know. I'm like, is this my online profile? This is why I don't do online dating for this exact reason.
Exactly.
these
This is
questions from a Catholic match.
uncomfortable.
I just want that to be very clear. These are questions we came up with on our own, right? So,
Yeah.
all right, Bree, go ahead. Sorry, what were you going to
Sorry,
say?
Bree.
Woof. No, I thought I escaped this question. No, just kidding. I think both Jackie and Marie summed up what I look for in a guy. I'm pretty open-minded to the like looks wise or whatever people think they're naturally drawn to. I think kindness goes a long way. You just have to stand out and be kind and friendly, like not being afraid to take on the room and hold your own conversation. I mean, I'm not saying go talk about like what paint drying, but like be able to carry a conversation.
Yeah.
Even if it feels like you're doing a lot of the heavy lifting, like you can carry your own weight, because small talk is, I mean, we're part of a giant community at St. Al's, and there are so many people, which is great that we get to see new people, but small talk is part of that. And so perfect example of it is like being able to introduce and interact with new people. And, I, as a consultant, definitely do a lot of it. Like I'm pretty sure I talked about coffee and our morning routines with my client for like a good 20 minutes today. It was weird. But that's to say, like, just hold your own and be friendly, and like how you interact with your friends is definitely something that it like speaks volumes about how you carry yourself, and like what kind of person you are. So if you're just like out and about, just like if you're at a bar and you're just taking shots left and right, like not my type, but you, man.
Are you sure, girl? Are you sure?
Go throw up.
Memories.
And,
Guys who rip shots
but,
at fun. I mean, we know some of this. I can work it out, Marie. I'm sorry, Bree, keep going.
No, but I mean, totally. I think if you're also able to balance like a good conversation with being able to listen. Like if you can't listen, I'm done. Like goodbye. Peace be with you.
Peace be with you. That's a good one.
I dare you. I dare you.
That is perfect. Okay, so I have a follow-up question to that because Jackie, I don't know if you did, but I mean, I feel like maybe you and I would relate on this topic because we both work in pro-life, but like Marie and Bree, you guys both mentioned work in your response. So I'm curious, what do you feel like the relationship is between your job, like what you do, and how you date? Like, is there a relationship there at all? I mean, do you like to like go on dates and talk about your work, or do you feel like you enjoy dating? Our printer just kicked on, sorry. Or do you enjoy dating people who are like in your industry? You know what I mean? Like what do you think the relationship is there? Or are you the type of person
I'll take this.
that does not want to talk? It is like not a priority. And the second that I get married, I'm like out of there. This is like, you know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? So yeah. Go ahead.
It's like a hot take from Slack. I'm going to take this. I have a church and state rule. I don't date anyone in PR that's like not dissing them,
Interesting.
or I just don't. Advertising or PR, like you might be the coolest dude, you might be like an ex-seminarian, like I don't know, but I won't. It's just too incestuous of an industry that like I don't want that like career dynamic thing happening. So definitely something that obviously I kind of fell into healthcare comms, but I work at an agency that doesn't just do healthcare comms. So I could possibly work with someone who does like CPG, consumer packaged goods stuff, and like it'd be great. He could be the coolest dude in the world and like great conversation. Hashtag friend zoned. I will not date him just because I think it's a career thing for me. And eventually the goal is to possibly, move on to other things that are more consistent. Consulting, I think Marie and I talked about this, where consulting it's crazy. You're like talking about your clients a lot. You're like, you become one with your client. And the way my bosses once put it was, you make up less than 1% of their day, but they make up 110% of your day. And that's because they need that extra 110% from someone else to pull their weight. And so that being said, I don't want to think about work when I'm on a date or doing something fun. But if my stress levels are high, it might come out. If that week was a stressful week, it might start talking about my work a little bit more than I need to. Yeah, it kind of depends. It's situational, but yeah, I think that's where my head's at. Hopefully I want to get to a point where I'm not talking a lot about work and other things.
I feel that. Marie,
so my perspective is never say never, because this goes into one of your other questions later. So I'll save my my second part of the response. Okay, one thing to like, if there's a huge like red flag, like, okay, I'm not going to date him. But for me, so as I said, I implement software. It's called Workday, if anybody's heard of it. Basically set it up. It's this big HR financials platform. So like, consulting is just a broad term, right? Where you're basically helping a client do something, right? Service. I think most people know that. So I'm like definitely very open, like to dating somebody in my industry, dating a teacher, nurse, like whatever it is. Like people just have like totally different careers. And so it's not as important for me. I think like actually at my company, probably not, right? Although we have like 6 couples that are married and actually met at my company. So you just never know. But all of that said, like, I don't think for me, it's as big of like the industry or like, what does he do? Because I think like, I know so many people that have had these like conversions of like, I used to do this and now I do this. I was an engineer and now I'm a missionary. I was a missionary, now I'm an engineer, like all these things, right? So for me, it's not as big of a deal. I think I have a Georgia Tech brain where like all four of us like are we think a lot, intellectual, right? That kind of stuff like draws us into the faith and draws us into conversation. So I think for me, it's more important that I can have this intellectual conversation about something that's important to him or to me or both, right? I spend like 50 hours a week at least at my job. So for me, it's not a big deal to talk about work on a date, as long as it's not like boring and just dragging on about venting about what's going on in the office, right? If it's something that's like, oh, like we both do something similar, like I'm very open to like talking about that, right? But again, I try not to like idolize my work or make it look like I'm holier than thou because I am a consultant, right? And I like do all these fancy business things, right? And I have a lot of friends that aren't in business or consulting, and it's not about that, right? So that's my perspective.
Nice. Jackie, do you have any thoughts about that?
About work stuff, like talking about, I'm always nervous to talk about my work, especially if it's with a guy that I'm not like sure what their views are. Talking about our line of work can be nerve-wracking. But how they respond is a big big thing as if there's going to be a second date, that's for sure. Yeah, I mean, I talk about work a little bit, but like I said, I don't like to jump into it. It is a big part of who I am though, so it eventually is going to be a big thing that I talk about, because it's just, my work is such a big part of my life and my values. So, yeah.
Yep.
How about you, Mary Kate?
Do I like, what is the relationship between work and my work is like kind of my whole life. So like when I worked in politics, I absolutely hated dating people who were also in politics because I just felt like we ended up talking about like Trump or elections or like we would talk about like whatever political thing was happening at the time. And I honestly hate that. I like absolutely hate when that's like the only thing that I feel like I have in common with someone. But yeah, like with work, I don't know, it's complicated because I feel like, dang, I don't even know. I actually didn't even think about this question for myself before I asked it. So, yeah, I don't know. It's like work is my whole life. And that is a challenge. Like Jackie, I feel you about like this hesitancy with like, you just don't know who, you just don't know like how someone will respond to that. I've had like, I'm for sure at a point that it's like, that is your problem. Like, and I mean that with all people, not just like with like dating, like that is your problem. If you have an issue with what I do, because you are wrong, my friend. You know, like, so I don't know. So that's their thing. Yeah, I don't know. I guess that would probably be my biggest comment about that is like when I was working in politics and like, that was the only thing that like when you work in Republican politics and it's like all men around you, like, and you meet someone, that's the only thing they know about you. And they're like, this is great. We have so much in common. And I'm like, yeah, but like, I do not want to talk to you about elections for the next 3 hours or whatever.
That's how I built my church and state rule. So
yeah, I feel that rule. I think that's a really good rule. Honestly. So yeah, I think that's my comment about that. It's probably just that primary thing. It's very rare to like meet men who have a strong opinion, I have found, about the life issue or the like women's health, obviously, because like unless you're like, I don't know, not very many men have a strong opinion about that stuff, which is again, like I think now it's even different than being in politics because a lot of men have strong opinions about politics. But yeah, so that's my thought about that.
Really quick, I was going to say, I think the difference for you, Mary Kate and Jackie, is like your faith is so like on your sleeve with your job. Like, what do you say? Because it's like a huge value, right, for both of you. Where like, I would say personally, I don't know if you can relate, like I can kind of hide behind it a little bit. Like I like being Christ in the workplace, right? But like, I'm not talking about it all the time. So even when it like comes into dating, it's like, there's a little way that you can like hide behind it, you know, and you have something in common, which is like business, right? But then to get anything deeper, you know, for you guys, it's kind of like wear your heart on your sleeve, like one of the first things that you talk about, right?
Yep.
So just something different.
Actually,
totally.
That's a perfect segue, because I think that was going to be the next thing we were going to talk about is in terms of faith and like dating someone who is Catholic versus who isn't Catholic. That is huge for me. And I dated someone for a long time who wasn't Catholic and spent a lot of time trying to like justify. I mean, I spent like a lot of time trying to figure out how I can make that situation work. And you get in the beginning and you think like, well, we have all these other things in common and like, we love each other, so we could like work it out, you know, and then like you realize that when it comes time to start making very practical decisions that you just like can't move forward. And so that's actually a huge one for me, is like, I just pretty much won't even go there. And I think it also like, you know, kind of what you said with regards to my work, like pro-life is like, okay, I think most people look at my job and they're like, oh, it's political. Well, it's political, but it's also a ministry. And it's like, I would say it's a women's ministry. And I guess it's a men's ministry too. Like, you know, there are like times that I'm in conversation with men who have been touched by abortion and things like that. But I think the biggest thing for me, again, like what you're saying, is when you are in work that is a ministry, it further solidifies this notion that like Christ is the center of my life. And like, I'm not in this, like, to be totally frank, like, I'm not like, I do think abortion is evil, but I'm not in this job because I think abortion is evil. I'm in this job because I love Christ and he put me in this job. And so like, that's, yeah, like 100%. I think that totally plays a role. So, I mean, that kind of answers both questions, your question and also one of the things we wanted to talk about with regards to like dating someone who's not Catholic. But I don't know. What about you, Jackie? Do you have any thoughts about that?
Yeah. I don't think I can. I've gone on several dates with guys that are not Catholic, that are not really practicing anything. And for me, it was, on the first date, I saw there was just like a lag in conversation, or like there was a part of me that I felt like I couldn't really express or relate on a deep level with that person. It's such a big part of me and a big part of what I write about, what I talk about. And like I said, I really do just wear my faith on my sleeve. I have it on my, like, and then I guess that kind of begs the question of like, I don't even know if I could date a guy that's another denomination. Because I'm like obsessed with Mary, and that's like such an issue I've had with guys that are not. Yeah, I think I need someone that's Catholic. I've seen people make it work, and I don't think it's something that other women can't do. I think God could specifically call someone to date and marry someone that's not of the same faith, of the same denomination, but I don't think I could do it. Yeah, no.
Bree, do you got any thoughts about that? Or Marie, I guess.
Bree, you go.
Oh, great. So as your resident convert, I don't necessarily think that I would want to date anyone who isn't Catholic, just because I've had my own faith, my own conversion of heart, and all that I have gone through in that. So fundamentally for me, if I've done that, it feels like I'm taking 4 steps backwards in my faith life. And so it seems backwards, and you want to grow. And ultimately the purpose of dating is to find your partner and for life, and they're supposed to be hand in hand guiding you towards heaven, right? And so if you're in the church, like, those are fundamental conversations that you are going to conflict on. Those values are going to be different. And so why cause yourself to go through that heartache when it's not necessary? I don't know. I don't think it's the most intentional for me to go through with that kind of dating.
Marie, I feel like you maybe have a nuanced perspective on this.
For sure. I was going to say, I'm devil's advocate here.
Yeah.
I have not, I'll tell you, I haven't dated a guy who is not Catholic or really is not Catholic. So I don't have the experience, but I have seen with so many friends and my own life how I have been impacted by just like being so open to whatever the Lord like desires for me. And again, I'm not saying like, okay, personally, I couldn't date somebody that faith was not important, meaning the Christian faith. But the number of people I know and that are Catholic with literal quotes, right? Went through that before, but you know, all the other qualities that I was explaining like weren't quite there, just in like the humility and how Christ had like transformed his life, right? So for me, honestly, like I have been so impacted by incredible Protestant men in my life, whether that's, I have 2 best friends who have married Protestant men, and I went through all the ups and downs with them. I've got another friend who, dated a guy in college for a while, and they actually broke up because they could not come together on the Catholic and his Protestant faith. But then she ended up marrying another guy who is Protestant and is very open, very willing, very just encouraging her in her faith. And so for me, like that's given me just an overall perspective of, hearing you guys talk about like conversion. I think of my own like conversion story and how like if I was at that place, right, in my faith where I was like on eggshells with my faith, and I met a guy and he was like, no, I'm not going to date her unless she's like praying the rosary every day and in daily mass or like, and passionately Catholic, I think I would have been a little bit upset because I would have been like, hey, like, yeah, but you don't know like where I'm trying to grow. And have you even given me a chance? Right. So, again, I've seen that experience where like, on fire for Mary, it's like, that's amazing. But like so many people just don't know, right? Like so many men have no idea, women too, right? But especially when we're talking about the dating sense. So, again, I don't have the experience, but I do think it's important for me at the same time to be very prudent with that, right? That like when we're dating, we're not evangelizating, right? To try to get him to convert, like that's not the goal, right? But I know so many of my friends, of the guys that have just been so open, right? Yeah, wait, sure, I'll go to mass with you. Or what are you reading, right? Just like asking the right types of questions and just being open, right? Scott Hahn, one of my favorites, right? Just like reading about these men who've just like gone through this struggle, and seeing that. So yeah, I think for me, I'm definitely more open to it. My mom is a convert. She converted 13 years into my parents' marriage. And so all I knew was Catholicism, but I've just been shaped in that way of just the openness in the faith and being open. I mean, I keep saying that same word, but there gets a certain point, right, where you're discerning the next thing, or you realize he doesn't even care and he's not interested. And of course, you have to make a decision at that point.
Yep. Yeah. And I think, it's a good point. I mean, to be honest, my general thought on this is like, it has to be personally discerned, because I think that like, for me, I've had a very strong experience in a couple of areas of my life in one direction. And it's in the direction of, I can't like go there. And I think that that's just where God has put my life. But I also, like, we know, like, I think your parents are a perfect example. We know that there are couples who come together and there are such good fruits in that. And I have friends who are, dating guys who are either secular or like of a different faith. I have one friend in particular who's always telling me that she wants to set me up with someone secular. And I wouldn't necessarily take that approach, that it's like, just like intentionally stray outside of the faith for some reason, because you're not finding what you're looking for. I don't know. I would not actually, I think Sadie asked that. Sadie, you asked that, if he's watching. He asked that, should we, like, would women, if they are not finding what they're looking for, intentionally go outside of the faith? Yeah, I see you, Pri, I see you. Would you intentionally go outside of the faith to seek someone out, like to date, if within the faith it's not going well? And I don't think that's the right approach. I think if God's going to bring someone into your life who isn't Catholic, it really does need to be like, I don't know, I guess it has to be personally discerned. I don't know that it would be a good thing to go out looking for something else, because really what you're looking for is someone who, like you said, Pri, is like, you're at that point, you're like willfully looking for something that is like a couple steps away from where you would want to be. And I think it's different if it, happens like by divine providence or something to that effect.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think like this whole thing of like going and searching for somebody that's secular, like, I don't know that I agree with that, right? That like we as women need to go searching out, right, for a significant other. Like, yeah, you have to get yourself out there and meet people and express that you're interested, right? And talk about it with your friends of what you're looking for, but yeah, this idea of we have to go out and look for that, like beggars can't be choosers. It's like, yeah, but we're not beggars and we're also not choosers, right? So, so just like keeping that in mind. I know some couples where that has worked out, but again, it's like a lot of personal discernment, and a lot of times it just happens, right? It's not like this active looking in either way.
Totally. I think then you just have to be introspective and understand where you are in your faith life. And you also have to discern if this is the right vocation for you. Perhaps this isn't what you need to be looking out for. Maybe this is your time to grow in your spiritual relationship with Christ. And so I don't necessarily think that we need to get so stuck on the fact that we're chasing the next milestone, being that like after graduating, you have to like find the ideal job. Like your first job has to be the best job. And like, that's not true. And like that, like after you have your job, you have to start paying off your loans and all of that. But then also think about, finding that person. It doesn't come naturally to some people. It doesn't come immediately to some people. And instead of putting the cart before the horse, just give it some time and build your relationship with God, and really be intentional about what you are looking for, and really pray about what God has intended for you.
Yeah. I think, and there's an important point to be explored there too, because I think that like, if I find myself, like I meet someone that I'm like attracted to or interested in or something, the question that I immediately try to ask myself is like, okay, what is this desire? And like, where is it coming from? And then I try to take that to God. And I think that like, we can have male friends who we might experience that. And this like goes a little bit along with like the emotional chastity piece, that we can have male friends who we might experience that with, that, you find yourself asking. I think if we don't ask ourselves those questions, we like can run into dangerous territory. But I think on the flip side, like what you're saying, like asking those questions about like, what is this desire I'm feeling? And like thinking through it logically, we do have a call as like intellectual human beings to order our passions. So like, you can meet somebody who is like, you meet this guy and he's like super secular, but he is like I was gonna say the shit. He's like the crap. He's awesome. And you're like, okay, I really like him. But also on the flip side of that, like there's some serious practical and like logical questions to be asked. And I think at that point you do have to kind of take it to the Lord. And the friendship, and actually this goes into, so the boys are asking questions in the chat. With regards to like friendship, I think I would say like over time, my perspective on this has really changed. And I think now, like having dated in like, in my late 20s, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm in my late 20s. I don't think I've ever said that phrase before. Like I almost would say that I don't think I would date someone cold, like someone that I like if a guy approached me in a bar and asked me out on a date at this point, I don't think I would be, I don't know what I would do, but I don't think I would be super into that. I think like, to be honest, how we can avoid some of the wounding that we do in dating and like some of the foolish choices that we make is by like getting to know people on a level that is like a friendship of like fraternal chastity. And like, and I know that's so like, oh, it's so corny and like yuck and not fun, but it's also like, there's so much beauty in that. Like I did the consecration to St. Joseph this last year, and I feel like it taught me so much about just like having, like appreciating friendships with men in ways that are totally platonic and like chaste, and like getting to know them in their masculinity in a way that is not romantic or like sexual in any way. And I think there is so much to be gained in that, like so much. Like I actually, that is like, that's where it's at. Like that is such a beautiful opportunity.
Yeah.
So to answer, like to take it back to dating, like I think there's so much, friends should totally date. If you have a friend that you have like liked, boys, like, hey, I'm looking at you right now into the camera.
PSA.
You know her well, you've established a relationship, you like her, and you're like, dang, I could date this girl. If you've been thinking this longer, well, I won't put a timestamp on it. That would be the person that you should be pursuing a relationship with, is someone who is your friend. Like if you're one of those people who uses this excuse of like, oh, but we're friends. Well, you know what? I have a lot of friends. I don't really need any more friends in my life. You know what I mean? Like, I don't.
You're a savage, girl. You are a savage.
You know what I'm
But
saying?
playing devil's advocate to that, Mary Kate.
Yes, I'm with Pri. Go ahead.
Playing devil's advocate to that. Are you going to be willing to risk it? Let's say it's like 5 years.
I get
strong
that.
Friendship. Are you willing to take that leap of faith? And then it like.
Yeah. I get that. I totally hear you, because there's such a danger there. But yeah. I also, like I've also had guy friends that like I've, dated them, and then we like, this isn't the right thing. And then it's awkward and it's hard, but if you like, and that's why you have to approach it so prayerfully, because I think like we have to go into every dating scenario as like, it's a much higher chance that I won't marry this person than that I will. So I have to be like, looking at this, I have to, approach this so prayerfully. And like, I should be praying not just for my own vocation, but also for his vocation. Because like, if I'm really loving this person, regardless of what I want, regardless of whether I want a relationship with them or not, like if I'm really loving them, I should desire for them whatever God desires for them. And so like, I think when and I know that's like so hard for women. Like it took me probably 7 years, I think, to like really learn that and internalize it. And I know that's so hard, but I also feel like if we're able to take that approach to dating as like, it's not so personal. I know that sounds really bizarre, but it's almost like we're friends, we like each other. There's a chance God wants us to be married. We should check that out. But also like, if God doesn't want that for us, it's not a conviction of me. Like, I'm not less of a person if someone doesn't want to continue a relationship with me and vice versa. Like, does that make sense what I'm saying? I don't know. That's just my perspective, I think.
I think just going in with an open heart and open mind. And I think, you know, all you singles out there, look into the St. Anne Novena. But no, I think, just going in with an open mind and being intentional about who you are approaching this conversation with. Obviously, there is some sort of deep connection there, and a fundamental understanding, and there's something in common that you have, and you're just taking that additional step to see if there's something greater in that relationship. And if there isn't, then two people who are going into it willingly should be able to respect each other's boundaries and see it through. And if it doesn't work out, then communicate on what's not working. And if it isn't, then you can go back to being friends. But it's, again, being intentional about what you're wanting from it and what you hope out of it.
Totally.
Yeah. I get lots of thoughts. Love it all. I would go out with a guy if he asked me out in the bar. I'd be like, sure. If I could tell, right? Like, there's just certain things, like, again, if he's taking like 10 shots, I'm like, you just want something that I'm not going to give you, right? But also, what is the last thing you just said? I literally just lost my train of thought. Here's my thought. I also don't think we have to overthink it at the same time, right? Like, yes, ask the girl out that you like and that you're good friends with, but I personally overthink a lot of things. So it's like, if you think she's cute and you like her and you guys have a good friendship, like, talk to her about it. Would you want to go on a date with me, right? And like, hopefully you guys have a good enough friendship that she would be like, I don't know that I'm interested in that way, or yes, let's go on a date and kind of see where it goes, right? And then you have a conversation at some point and like let it go and move on, right? But as long as you're having this conversation, you're just doing it. I'm all about action, right? But like, I think with dating, we can way complicate it. We could talk theory all day long, right? But like, what's the practicals of it?
Yeah. But in that, sorry, go ahead. I was just gonna say, if a guy is asking you out from like a guy's perspective, I think guys do have it harder than girls do. Like, they have to take the lead, and like traditional dating, you have to be the one. Like, girls are usually waiting around for guys to ask them out, but like, then if not the right or their perfectly envisioned guy that they have thought of asks them out, they're not super open-minded about it. But have they taken that leap of faith? Like, I think dating has to have a leap of faith in there, and you should be open-minded in all aspects of it. If a guy has the courage to ask you out, then like, just go on one date. Well, I mean, if you have a lukewarm understanding of what's going on, like, then you're gonna know one way or the other. Maybe you might be pleasantly surprised, or it kind of sucks and you'll probably see him around, and just be friendly about it. But also, that goes into another thought. Like, if someone does ask you on a date, you don't need to project it to every single person. Like, being part of a small community, word does travel fast, and like, how to be guarded about it and how to be intentional about it. That's a whole nother topic that I could get into. But
that is so true. And I know for a fact that there are guys specifically in our community, but I think this is a problem for men across the board. Sorry if I'm projecting this, men, but like, I don't know, you guys, I'm sure you'll tell us in the chat if I am. Like, I think that there's like a fear there that if they approach a girl that they're going to be gossiped about, that they're going to be like rejected in a humiliating way. And I think like you kind of touched on this in the beginning of what you were saying, that like, Marie, to your point, if a guy is going to have the courage to approach a woman with that kind of conversation, I think that he has to be mature enough to receive that well. Women, we have such a great opportunity because we're just in the seat of reception. Dan was just talking about this in Slack. This is a Mary thing. Our Lady received so well, and that's what we get to do. And that's beautiful because we get to wait and like discern in that waiting with the Lord. And then when we have, then, you know, and then we're like presented in a grace-filled way with these opportunities. And we get to receive that in the way that the Lord intends. And the men receive something by giving that to us. Does that make sense what I'm saying? Like, I know, sorry, I'm
not
like,
laughing at you and laughing at the live chat.
this is a friend's, a
Oh God, what's happening?
Triviani right now, giving and receiving and giving, but seriously.
Right.
But wait, I was like, but really, like, here's the thing that I've had to grow in is being receptive. It is like very hard, right? I don't know if you girls can relate when you do your life by yourself and you're just like a go-getter. So when somebody like asks you or tries to serve you, you're just like, wait, are you sure?
Yeah.
And it's just saying yes when you don't, not that you don't want to, but it's not natural to say yes, right? So it's like learning, like for me, that's like the humility that I'm always praying the Lord will just like guide me, right? To like, just be open and be receptive, right? Because I personally think that is so hard for me. And I know like this problem is, it's not like a guy problem. This is like a female issue that we have to deal with, right? Women complain, oh, this, that, and the other about guys, and this kind of guy's asking me out and it's not what I'm looking for. It's like, yeah, but like, what kind of vibes are you giving him? Are you being open? You know, so I think my perspective is that guys get shut down, right? So
Yeah.
of course they're going to lose confidence. So you have to help build guys up in that way of just like friendship and don't lead them on, but also be very just conversational and transparent.
Right. Transparency is so rare. And I think we expect it from all of our other relationships. If you mess up or do something that irritates your friend, or like your parents are the first ones to call you out if you do something that goes against what you've been taught, then like, why would you not do that? I mean, we do that to strangers too. So why would you not do that to the person that who you're seeing and are seeing in an intentional way that could potentially lead to something greater? Like if you're going to possibly live the rest of your life with this person, wouldn't you want to be honest with them? Even if it hurts in the moment, I think it's better to, that short-term hurt is a lot better than a long-term hurt. And, you know, it just kind of goes into thinking about dating as a whole. Like, don't be so intimidated by the idea of it. It's not any different than building any other relationship. It's just a little bit more personal if you want it to be personal. It doesn't always have to be.
Yeah.
Going back to the just going on a first date thing, I don't know if we got away from that, but I, especially going to Franciscan with Catholic women, women get way ahead of themselves. If a girl asks them on a date, if a guy asks them on a date, and they can't automatically see themselves with them long term or like getting married, they're already asking the question, could I see myself marrying this person? And I'm like, it's just a first date, like just go on the date. Or on a first date, they're like trying to discern if they're going to marry the person. You're like, just discern if you want to go on a second date. Like, stop thinking about, don't jump ahead. That's how we fall into like the emotional chastity of like falling for someone way too soon, because we're like imagining marrying them already. And it's like, no, just focus on where you are. Or how we shut someone down too soon because we're focused on way too far ahead. And that's a problem I've seen with Catholic women so often.
I think that's a problem with women in general. And I think, again, it goes back to that thing. I think that's where you guys, my family, can you guys hear that printer?
I don't think so.
You can't. Okay. My family keeps printing stuff. Like, why are you, it's 9 o'clock at night. Why are you printing stuff? Oh my. No, Jackie, I totally agree with you. And I think that, what were you just saying? Sorry.
She was saying, go ahead, Jackie.
Chastity. Yeah. And that is such a cringy phrase. And I think women in general struggle with that. And I don't know, like Marie, you had sent that book around to all of us. And so maybe you can like talk about this in a practical sense. I believe that it really goes back to what I was saying before about like, you know, taking those desires to God and asking him, like, is it appropriate that I, you know, like, are these, like, what are these desires that I'm having? And like, are they good? Are they from you? And, you know, like I have sort of, I've had experiences with that I think God just, this is going to sound so weird. I don't know if I should say this on a live stream. I don't know. People might think I'm crazy.
Say it.
I honestly like have had experiences like that I'm like, I honestly think that God just like needs someone to be praying for this person right now. And so like, I will just like make it my mission. Like, okay, God, you for whatever reason have like put this on my heart, this one individual. And like, I realize like, I recognize this like as being like a desire for like intimacy or something else, but like, that's not, for whatever reason, like that isn't on the table. So like, I think maybe you're just like calling me to like pray for this person right now. And so that's what I do. And I think that like that, again, it goes back to, I think we should do that in all, like relationships with men in general. And I think we have to take those passions to prayer and like ask God to order them. But I think that's also how we protect our own hearts, by like not assuming that because we have this desire, that it's it's like a sign from God that like we're going to be entering into marriage with this person. Like that is not actually, now I'm talking to the women, that is not what that feeling means. That feeling does not mean that you are called to marry that person. Like there is a lot more to it, starting with they have to feel the same way. So anyway, that's like Marie, I don't know if you had another comment about that, but I know you want to talk like share the story.
Yeah, so I have two things. So the book that you were referring to, it's actually called, I think it was Emotional Virtue, and it's by Sarah Swafford. So for those that don't know, she and her husband are big speakers in Focus. So I went to her conference. Anyways, read this book. It was when I was going through actually a similar situation with a guy, and I didn't even know that I was going through it. And I don't know how it landed up on my plate, but basically this whole idea, like, I don't know if you women can relate, but you might be talking to somebody, whether that's a friend or even a guy, right? And you're dating them or hanging out with your friend and getting to know your girlfriends, and you end up taking on this like emotional burden that you didn't even realize you're taking on until you get out of the situation. So emotional like virtue and chastity is like some practical examples is like, opening up about really, really deep stuff, like the hardest thing that you've ever gone through in your life, right? And, some situations of, specific deaths and suicide and just stuff that, you haven't told somebody in 4 years, right? And I think like, so I ended up being that in the situation. And so this idea of like emotional chastity and emotional virtue of like knowing your emotions, knowing your feelings, and also the logical side and being able to discern through that. So whether that's like your own emotions and are you reacting out of emotion, right? And as females, we do that more often than men, right? Because we go like this, and men, their whole lives are like this with their hormones. So like scientifically, we will always do that. So men just have to deal with it. But at the same time, as women, like we have to know like when those are coming out, right? And be able to control that and to direct, I don't want to say control, but direct it and redirect it, right? And understand that the male is not going to be able to satisfy all of those emotional desires, right? In the same way that, and men can argue, maybe they'll voice on the chat or on the next Monday call, but men actually in my life have done that with me, right? So guys that I've dated or guys that I'm close with have, you open up about these things, but there's a time and a place and a level of where you are in the relationship, right? And if you're actively pursuing, if you are exclusive, right? And it's something that's very, very serious. So that's my own experience and just like why I'm so constantly like praying that the Lord will help me with that. And especially this idea in relationships of not being able to, emotionally take on the other person's burden all the time and be able to solve it. Sarah Swafford talks about like the emoda coaster. So like, you meet a guy and then you Facebook stalk and then you LinkedIn stalk and then you actually start stalking, right? So it's like this idea of like emotionally, who is this guy in my head? Or, oh, he told me this like amazing thing, so I'm going to hold on to these 3 words that he told me, right, for the next week and the next month and the next year of my life, right? So it's learning like, yes, words are very powerful and actions are very powerful, right? But like we have to take them at face value a lot of times, right? And not like overthink and go on this like emotional tangent. So as I'm going on a tangent.
No, that was great. That's perfect.
I was going to share, sorry, there's another story back to our previous question. It just reminded me of like when we were talking about receptivity and being served in that way. I dated a guy out of college for like a month and I was just like shocked every time. Like he treated me so well. Like And when I say so well, I was like, he would pick me up, like not hard things, but like, you know, that was kind of rare. I was in college and I was like, oh my gosh, you're picking me up in your car, right? And I remember like it was raining or it was gonna rain. So I brought an umbrella and it was just like in my hand and I was holding it by my side and we were walking through like the street, like going to dinner or something. He was like, oh, can I hold your umbrella? And I was like, sure, but like, it's not raining. Like, you don't have to hold it over my head. But no, he was like, no, like, I want to hold it just to like hold your umbrella in my hands for you. And I was like, okay. So it's just like little things like that I was like, why on earth would you want to hold my umbrella? But like, sure, right? I just had to say yes because he was trying to serve, right? And he would, every time he would drop me off, he would get out of the car and walk me to the door. Like simple things, but I just like, it's so refreshing when like you're not used to that. So again, just like learning how to be receptive even to the little things, opening the door for you, calling you on the phone instead of texting you, like, you know, whatever it is, just like say yes, you know.
I remember someone that I know, telling me once that he was always afraid, like one of the biggest things for him that made him nervous on first dates was like whether or not he should like open doors and do all those things, because he was always afraid that the woman was going to be like give him an attitude about it. I don't know. Apparently those women exist that they're like, don't open the door for me. I can open the door for myself, you know, or whatever. That's awful. Don't be that person. Like just receive it well. I don't know. Am I being too forthcoming about that?
Be graceful.
No, but I
full of
think,
grace.
yeah. And but some of that comes from women's wounds, right? Like not to get into this super deep, dark situation. But like, you know, women are just, they've been scarred as have men been, right? From past relationships. So I would say if you are one of those girls in the situation, just like start being like, no, I'm not better than him. He can open my door.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. So I have another question. This is kind of a hard-hitting question, but we're gonna do it. So have any of you ever had the experience of you're dating someone, or okay, if you haven't had the experience, hypothetically, that you found out he looked at porn? And how did you handle it? Pre, your face is like.
I have not. And because I have a very reactive face, I would hope that I could be somewhat neutral if he felt so convicted. And obviously you have to be broken in some sort of way. And you have to be coming from a place of pain and some sort of suffering to understand that. So I surely wouldn't want that aggressive facial reaction to come through. But also taking that with grace, the fact that he was so honest and forthright with you, he felt he had the fortitude to be honest with you. That takes a lot of, for lack of a better term, cojones to actually go about and do it. and so I don't think that while I haven't necessarily experienced that, I think then you definitely have to pray about it and think about how can I obviously not internalize it or like take that on, because I know Marie mentioned that earlier, and definitely it's his problem, not yours, but how can you be an instrument of God and help him seek the help that he needs? And I think that might be something you can do and be instrumental in that way. And it doesn't necessarily mean that you don't see them anymore or what have you. Blessed is She is a community. It's a Facebook community. I don't know if you ladies know about it, but that I'm part of. And I mean, gosh, you hear some really terrible stories sometimes of family members or some of the pain that some of these people are experiencing. And one of them is something that someone had actually shared, that they knew someone close who had gone through an experience like that. And I think it takes a lot of grace and humility to be able to say, okay, wow, you feel like this was something you needed to share with me. I'm grateful that you did share this with me. Thank you for your honesty, but also not receiving it in a way where you're being hostile towards them. I think that might be like, you may feel betrayed and you might feel all of those negative emotions, but taking a step back and understanding where that person is coming from and trying to lead with empathy is critical. I don't know. I think, yeah, also my headphones are dying. So
well, and I think it's worth, I think, I have a couple thoughts about it. Wait, Marie, were you going to say something? Or Jackie?
Yeah, I was going to say, so I personally don't have an experience. There could have been guys that were looking at porn or addicted, but never voiced that to me specifically. And it didn't manifest itself in like a physical way. But I agree with Priya in the sense that, well, first of all, at least what I've heard, I think it's, is it Matt Fradd that's like very public and open and really big in that ministry, which is amazing. So listen to a lot of his stuff, but majority of men have looked at it and have, I remember my priest from college saying, you know, a man who's addicted to porn is not suitable for marriage. But at the same time, he was like, X percentage, I think it was something like 95% of guys have looked at it at some point in their life, right? So he was like, the chances that you will date and marry a guy is like very high, right? That has been in that situation. So I think for me, similar to Pri is like, and I don't want you guys to think I'm this like cold-hearted, you know what, of like no emotions, because I have them and I want to be there for my friends and everything too, right? But and just being compassionate in that. So, you know, when or if a guy opens up about that, I think to your point, Pri, it's very important that you walk through that with them and say, what are you doing actively to try to rid that vice out of your life, right? And if the answer is nothing and they're breaking down in front of you and saying, I have no idea what to do, it's like, that's what our role as women is, to like sit there and pray with them and guide them, right? And immediately find the resources for them, find a counselor for them, right? Reach out to any of these guys and say, hey, I need help, like anonymously, right? Or books, right? There's plenty of podcasts. I know there's Covenant Eyes, right? So that's where I think like, I pray that that's my reaction, at least, right? If I were to date or marry a guy who was struggling with that, right? And just like making sure that it's very important that they're actively trying to fight it in their ways, in their life, in very like practical ways. And if they're not, helping them find the resources to get there, because, you know, it affects our relationships too.
For sure. I think it's worth emphasizing too, like for the sake of the conversation, how hurtful that is to women when they do find out. And that's not even to convict any of the men so much as like, that is such a deep betrayal. I think that, and I don't know if betrayal is the right word. I suspected it with someone that I was dating. And like, there were some contentious conversations about the topic, and that like kind of solidified for me that it was probably an issue, but we never got to it was never like a personal conversation. It was just like a conversation about the topic. And it's just feels like such an invasion. Like, I don't know, I started to say this with the boys on Monday, but I think it was while my face was frozen on the screen. And so like there was a bit of a distraction happening, but we were talking about Emilia Clarke in Game of Thrones. And I was saying that like, it is so like unnatural for a woman to just like take her clothes off in front of a room full of people. Like, I don't think that men have quite the same defensiveness about that women do. Like, I can't even imagine what that would feel like. I think the experience alone would be traumatizing. It's just like, so that is like, I think as a woman, God has just like put these very natural defenses and inclinations in us about that. That like, it's like, even like wearing, like, I can remember like in college, like wearing stuff that I probably shouldn't have been wearing, and you're like uncomfortable the whole time. Like, you're like ultra aware of like, how short is my skirt, or like how low is my top? And you're like so hyper focused on your clothes. And there's a reason for that. It's because you're probably like revealing too much, and like that natural, like I literally can't think about anything other than the fact that someone might be able to see up my skirt right now. Like, the fact that that is so like holds our brain when we're experiencing that in the moment, like speaks to what it is we're trying to protect. And so on the flip side of that, when you have this experience with men looking at pornography, it's so gosh, like there aren't even words. I don't know, you guys, I don't know if I'm describing this well. It's just like so deeply horrifying to know that like, if I'm going, like, I don't like, intimacy with this person won't be as intimate or as personal because he has seen everyone else too. You know what I mean?
Right.
Maybe I'm explaining this poorly. I don't know. Do you guys have any thoughts about it?
I do. I think definitely can see that. Again, I have not been in the situation, right? So I don't personally know how like impactful that would be for me, right? To imagine. I don't know. I think like I have the fear kind of like, well, what if a guy was sexually active in his life before and I haven't, right? And then I marry him, right? It's kind of the same fear of like, well, shoot, like he knows what he's doing, or like there's images, right? That's just different. So I guess it's like my first reaction, I think too, like there are some women that struggle with that too, you know, with pornography. I know like Audrey Assad was very public about it. And like, even I catch myself watching Ozark, the show, and Mary Kate, we were talking about it, and I'm like, I need to stop watching this. You know, there's certain scenes in there that you're like, this is very inappropriate and like taking my mind somewhere that it does not need to go. Right. And I'm saying that on live TV now, live stream. So yeah, I think, and it's recorded. Awesome.
100% honesty.
Go ahead.
Love it.
It's great. This is good. Yeah. I'm sorry, Pri, just to add to that, Marie, one of the women from Focus who talks specifically about pornography and female pornography, like female pornography consumption, Kelsey, I don't remember her last name, but she talks about how she had a porn addiction for a long time, and it didn't materialize the way that a man's porn addiction did.
Yep.
Like she would watch like YouTube videos of movie like sex scenes. Like it was very different than the average, like, or like than what we would perceive as like a porn addiction. And I think that that's important for women to know and understand. The other piece of this that has been like I've been noticing more and more over the last year, I would say, is Instagram is increasingly becoming a place that it's like not quite porn, but like really, really close. And I think they rope women in that way because women are visual, but in a different way. And I think that they like draw women in, they meaning like the porn industry. Like I think that they draw women in through Instagram, which is like very much a place of beauty. Like what accounts thrive in Instagram? It's like the beautiful, you know, like beautiful life, beautiful home, beautiful earth, beautiful people, whatever. Like those are the accounts, art. Those are the accounts that really flourish on Instagram. And so when you have these accounts like borderline pornography, they're roping that, those are the people they're grabbing. So that was my comment about that. Pri, go ahead, what were you gonna say?
Oh, I mean, to piggyback off of what you were saying, I think just understanding that being in media and mass media consumption, shout out to the guys in their live stream on Monday. But just knowing that you have to, you know, think about body positivity. We have this whole idea of body positivity and this movement about love yourself, love your body, love your curves, all of that. And now that's being projected online where it should be, I mean, I'm all for it, like love your body and like learn how to dress for yourself and like all of that, like be intentional about it, obviously. But not all of that needs to be projected out in the world. And maybe this is just me being jaded, working in advertising and all of that, but it can be jarring just having all of that always over there. And I think from my question that something came up for you, Mary Kate and Jackie, was being in the pro-life movement. How do you guys reconcile with like, how do you guys deal with people who do have porn addictions, or if they have come in, or, you know, what do you think is the stance on being pro-life, and how should you handle that if you find out your significant other is someone who has a porn addiction?
Jackie, do you have any thoughts about that?
I'm not sure I understand the question.
I just mean, like, if someone, like your significant other, let's say you are married for like a long time and they finally come out and they say, I have this porn addiction. How do you reconcile with it? How do you deal with it? I think it's like back to what Mary Kate had originally discussed, but do you react a little differently because you've been married to them? Or do you handle it with the same grace?
For sure.
Yeah. I mean, you're married. So, I mean, you know, it's like you're going to want to work with them through it a lot more and a lot more intimately than you would if you were just dating them. Like the emotional burden is much heavier. And also the impact is a lot heavier because you're actively like sexually active with this person. And so what they're watching in pornography is affecting your sex life. So,
whether you know it
whether you know it or not. And yeah, that would be really, really difficult. So it's a little bit off, but like something else that women struggle with. So I've never been in a relationship or that I know of where I knew that the person was watching pornography, but it's so damaging to a woman because we compare. So we're automatically thinking, am I measuring up to these women that he's watching? And if you're married, you're like, am I not enough in our sex life that he needs to go outside of it and watch pornography? So that's some of the things that you would, struggle with. And I'm not positive as to how I would respond to that. Obviously you have a lot more that you have to stick around and try to work through it because you're married. It's different than when you're dating.
Right. Yeah, I think that brings up a really good point though, Jackie, that I think women specifically get caught in when you're in a relationship prior to marriage is that if you, and again, this is not about demonizing men, particularly with regard to the pornography issue, but like Marie, you said it, that if you're having that conversation with someone and you're either dating or in a relationship, in a long-term committed relationship with them, it needs to be very clear that there is a recognition of the problem and an openness to healing and to addressing the problem. And I think that a lot of women, when they're in long-term relationships, feel emotionally like I'm already committed, I'm already married to this person. But that's like, we need to make that that separate. Like, you are not, my mom says that all the time, like, you are not married to this person until you're married to them. So like, if things are coming out that are alarming you, giving you reason to pause, that is not to say that you should not walk with them and should not encourage them and should not, continue to be part of their life and eventually commit to them. That is not to say those things, but there has to be a serious discernment there of, what am I volunteering my life for? Because that's what you're doing, I mean, this is like a funny side note, but like, I've been watching a lot of Audrey Hepburn movies recently. I don't know, just like for fun, whatever. And I was thinking today, like, I actually have thought it a couple times that I've watched Audrey Hepburn movies in the past, but I was thinking today, like, all of the men that Audrey Hepburn is like opposite in these movies are like twice her age. And like, a lot of them are thieves, like they're like criminals, which is so bizarre. Not all of them, but a lot of them. And it kind of does make you think about like, the way that people talked about relationships, like in that era, or like in the time of our parents, which is maybe for some of us like a little bit later than that, is so different from how we talk about relationships now, to our benefit. I was talking with my friend Bree yesterday, and we were having this conversation and just like talking about, marriage in general, and, parents, and how we like, receive information about vocation from our parents and from our families and other couples that we know and things like that. And she was saying something that I think is so beautiful, that, a lot of us have parents who have like struggled in marriage, and it's not been the picture perfect scenario that we all thought it would be. I think a lot of us are parents, or our children are divorced couples. And she was saying that, the beautiful thing is like, we get to stand on the shoulders of the ones who came before us. So we get to start 10 steps ahead, in that we're looking back at, the people we've seen and the people who've raised us. And we're able to say like, I want something different for myself. And we're able to like grow from that place. Which I think is like a great perspective. And with regards to pornography, I think our generation experiences it a little bit more, but we do have to enter into, stand on the shoulders of the people who came before us, in the sense that marriage is not a fairy tale. It is like hard work, and there's a lot of surprises. And if you are volunteering yourself for something as hard, and again, I'm not saying, I think the piece, if the man is open and willing to really, engage in healing and really walk with Christ in this journey, then like absolutely by all means, that is a personal discernment. But I do think that there has to be this like acknowledgement of the problem. I think a lot of women turn a blind eye, or they go the opposite way and they participate in it, which is such a sad. Such a sad.
But like, to your point, so you guys know earlier how I gave the practical example of like, if a guy talks about finance and like he won all these awards, like it was kind of a stupid example, but like,
No,
this is the point. Like,
yeah.
thanks.
Full circle.
This is like true humility, right? That like, if you call him out or you help him realize a sin that he's struggling with, he's like, oh, good point. Never realized it. And he takes action in his own life, right? Like that's the humility that like I've seen with men where like they are not afraid to hear it. And not only not afraid to hear it, but like they will want to grow in that, not only for their own sake, but like if they're a true man, they will do it like so that they're not harming you. You know, so that to me is like so attractive. Like, yeah, you're going to have your shit and like, you're going to have so many problems, like whatever you're going through in your life, ups and downs, right? But like, how are you dealing with it? Like, how are you building virtue in your life? You know, I think that's so important.
And that,
unless you guys have something to add, I want to go to the comments and I want to go to the chat.
yeah.
Oh gosh, I don't even know what's been happening.
There's
so many.
I don't even,
So I'm just gonna scroll through. Why isn't MK sitting on the floor? Because this chat is more important than the other one, and I didn't want my Wi-Fi to be.
I'm sitting on the floor for you, Mary Kate.
Thanks, Jackie. Comment winner. We have to pick a comment winner, you guys.
Oh gosh.
He is cute.
I can't read them. There's like 300.
Liberal women specifically, what?
Who asked?
Probably about something we said.
I can't read all these comments right now. I'm going to waste time. Who said the thing about liberal women specifically?
John Trainer said something about liberal women. I don't know what it was, but.
Well, you date a coworker. We kind of talked about that.
Touched on that.
Will you ever date a poor guy?
Anything is off limits if you can be mature about it. Like if you can take that to prayer and be. Also, I think, hey, again, that is a way bigger issue if you're sleeping with the person when you're not married. Honestly, if you're like chaste, it should be a lot easier to, and I know it's so like, oh, okay, Mary Kate, but seriously, that's what I thought about that.
Wait, what did you just answer?
What?
I was just commenting like dating a coworker. I think that there's a lot of there's a lot of like, that's really frowned upon.
Are you dating a coworker or are you sleeping with a coworker? Is that what you're saying?
It's a lot easier to handle that situation maturely if you're not sleeping with the person. Like I would say that that's more of an issue in our modern times because like people sleep together and then it's far more complicated and dramatic, and like women are way more emotional when that's been the situation versus like if you've been on 4 dates with a person, you know, and it's like not at that level. It's not as difficult to like continue to work with that person.
Yeah.
You guys, like, I just.
Will you date a guy who does not like brunch?
And I said yes because I hate brunch.
Marie, you hate brunch?
I don't hate it, but I'm like an anti-girl because I like don't love fall and I don't like pumpkin spice lattes.
All's all right.
Or coffee or flannels. I'm from the South. Yeah. And like, if you see all of your faces, exactly why I say I'm like an anti-girl currently. And I don't love brunch. I'm just kidding. I like some things about brunch, but that's irrelevant.
I like brunch, but I don't like mimosas. Kind of backwards. But I also don't like Bloody Marys. They're kind of gross. It's just
I don't like them either.
No, those aren't good.
Gross.
Why? But yeah, I dig it. And also fall is not overrated. Fall has the best stuff. Flannels, fall, friends, small things.
This is
being so stereotypical right now, talking about fall.
This is exactly why I don't justify my dislike, because I will never win the conversation and it's not about winning.
So sorry you guys, I'm absorbed in this chat. This is what the boys do to me that I don't like, but reading all their comments, they're just hilarious. Okay. Juan said that he had a girl actually ask him about porn on a second date. I am all for that.
Really?
Yeah.
I would not do that.
I
Really?
would not.
I don't know if I'd have the courage.
That is so wrong. I mean, what is wrong? I mean,
I don't think there's anything wrong with that. If you, I think that there is, I wouldn't.
Okay, wait. Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
What
sure.
if a guy asks you that on a second date?
Yeah.
If I look at porn?
Yeah. How would you feel?
I think, well, okay. I don't know if it's totally comparable because I think that's not, well, I don't know.
What would be a comparable question then, I guess? I don't know.
I think it has to be like about how you ask it. I think you can ask it in a very accusatory way, like as though I'm like, got to get through my questions. You know what I mean? Like, which I wouldn't approach it that way. I do think, like, I can think of a couple times that there were like moments in conversation with a guy that I thought in my head, like, I don't like that.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm just going to make a comment. I hate Barstool. I think Barstool is awful, and Barstool is like gateway to porn as far as I'm concerned. And I know there will be guys on here who like love Barstool and regularly look at it. And like, I think that if you are like one of those guys who is like, I am all about Barstool, it is so funny, like total frat move. Like sorry to the people who are, I was gonna say like we're 23. Some of you guys are 23. Sorry. You know what I mean? Like we're still in college and we're all like joking about frats and like some of that kind of stuff. I don't know. That's a little bit of a red flag. The Barstool thing is a red flag for me, honestly. Like I think now, knowing what I know now, if I were on a date with someone and they were talking about Barstool, I actually did get in an argument with someone about Barstool on the date once. So maybe that was.
Am I supposed to know what Barstool is?
Barstool is like, it's like a sports blog, but it's like a sports blog and they do podcasting, but it's very much like they're all on Twitter, and it's like this personality thing that there's like all these different Barstool writers and they all have like a social media personality, and they write blogs and they write about like a ton of topics. Like there was, I don't know, they write about a lot of topics. Some of it is funny in that they like make fun of women for things that I would also make fun of women for. Like Marie, like you were saying, I think they have a whole article from a couple of years ago that went viral about like women loving fall and how it's like,
attack.
probably invented that whole like joke about women loving fall. But like they
Me?
also have, no. What?
I thought you said I invented that joke. Like, no.
Barstool. But they also have like I was dating someone a couple of years ago, and he was like super into Barstool, and we were talking about this new podcast that Barstool was starting, and they were going to have a porn star on the podcast as like a personality, and that was her whole shtick. Is she's like, I'm a former porn star, and it's like, that's disgusting, and that's that's why I'm telling you, like, it's literally a gateway to pornography because they joke about porn. And then I won't get into it. There's not a lot of news stories recently about the writers, and they like cheat on their wives and all these things. And you're like, a very large chunk of the men in this country think that all of this is funny, and they're like laughing about it together on social media. And in the meantime, it's like horribly degrading to women, and also is creating this culture that takes attitude with everything women say and do. And like, it's so, sorry, now I'm like going to get on a tangent, but it really bothers me when you hear these jokes from men about like women being like emotional or talking too much, or like like just things that women do, that it's like
Stereotypes.
Women.
Like who we are.
Yeah.
Okay, like women are actually insecure about those things. And so when they hear it from men, it like further solidifies these feelings of insecurity of like, I'm not good enough, or it's either like, I'm not good enough, or I'm like too much for people. Like I'm too loud, I talk too much, I have too many opinions. Like things.
Literally all of us.
Where's the thumbs up?
Probably willing to talk about our dating lives on a live stream. This is by far the most bizarre thing I've ever talked about on social media before.
Chastity and Barstool Sports, man.
Barstool Sports. Yeah. So I
okay,
just
wait,
think,
can I?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
What were you gonna say?
Go ahead.
I just with Barstool that I just think like men, even like, you know, okay, pornography is one thing. I think men need to be very cognizant of the media that they're consuming when they're consuming things that make women out to be a joke. And it's the same, you know, like same goes for women with men. Like how many TV shows nowadays are like the dad is like the stupid oaf. That dang printer again. My gosh, what are they printing? And so, so you know, it's like stuff like that I just think like we have to recognize that like these medias that we're consuming are impacting the way that we view the other sex. And if you're making like compulsive jokes about women and like their potential faults, like how emotional they are, or like how they cry, or they talk a lot, or all of these things, like first of all, you're doing yourself a disservice because you're missing out on the beauty that exists in that place. Because what is that perception of the woman? It's a perversion of who she actually is. So like women talk a lot more than men, but it's because women are communicators, and we are, and the emphasis in the way that our brains are wired is in relationship. So there's such a great gift to be brought to the vocation of marriage in that area. When you know, like when you have a woman in your life who is like a great communicator and is empathetic and gentle and soft and is willing to engage in these hard conversations that are not as easy for men. And so that's such a great gift. And when we take that and pervert it and make it a joke and we like denigrate it, that's so damaging to women. And it also just solidifies so many insecurities that women have about who we are. Sorry, total.
For sure. So don't look at Barstool Sports.
Yeah, garbage.
I have a question that Dan asked in the chat. What are your thoughts on praying together as a couple? What does that look like for you?
Dan,
good
with the hard
question.
Hard question.
I can share about this loosely. So I dated someone for a long time that we never prayed together, and going to mass together was like an event because he just wasn't very open. And then like later on, I was in a relationship that like it was the total opposite. Like it kind of like knocked me off my feet because this person was like very good about initiating, you know, like going to mass together and saying rosaries together in the car, or like, I don't know, like even, this feels like a very, Marie, you'll appreciate this. This feels like a very Protestant thing, but even like praying out loud together after mass, that was so beautiful. That like I had that experience with someone that I dated for a little while, that like we would like pray together out loud after mass in the pew, like for each other. And for me, that was such a powerful way to like know what was going on in his heart, because you might not, I think sometimes we don't communicate well with each other in terms of like, what am I struggling with right now? Or like, what is something that like I have on my heart that I'm like thinking about? But if you're praying out loud with your significant other and you're like letting them into that space, you know, that conversation with God, I think it has the potential to like create insights, you know, that we can like further understand each other. Like I remember having that moment a couple of times with him of like, whoa, I didn't even know he was like thinking about that, and he's praying about it with me right now. Like, I think it's an opportunity for us to like further enter into like understanding each other. And yeah, so that's my comment about that.
Yeah, I haven't been in a situation where a guy has prayed out loud with me, I guess. But because I have struggled with emotional virtue chastity before, I struggle to see how in my life that could work without me getting very like emotionally invested in his relationship with God, right? So I think there is a balance. Again, I'm not saying like never pray out loud with me, right? Or offer that, right? Because like, again, I think some of that is growth, but I do know friends that, you know, would maybe pray like every single night together over the phone, right? And a longer, deeper kind of prayer, right? And it became almost too much emotionally invested in each other. And so I think there is a balance, right? So again, for me, I'm not saying like never going to pray with them, but like even this guy I dated out of college, it was like, he wanted to go to mass with me. And I was just like, not yet, because there was even just like in mass, like the most intimate point of my whole life, my day, right, my week, like I just wasn't at a place where like I wanted to let him into that emotional space with me, right, let alone me like connecting with him on that level yet, right? So I don't know, I kind of have mixed reviews of how much, not just how much prayer, but how deep, I guess, that you get in prayer, other than just like grace before meals or, you know, maybe a rosary. And I know plenty of couples that have prayed rosary together like every single day. And it's like, I just don't think that's what would be beneficial for me to discern with this person. I get too emotionally invested in their relationship with God, then maybe it would be more healthy for me to kind of just hear about it or pray in more generic ways. But who knows?
I think it's good to pray with the person you're dating, especially if you've been dating for a while, but you have to make sure that you have your own prayer life also with God, and you're praying by yourself. Your prayer life can't be tied too much to that person, which I think we can fall into. You have to have your own relationship with God, your own prayer time alone, and not just with that.
Yeah. I think that's important too, because like, I think that in the event that there is like a breakup, that one person in the relationship decides, you know, this isn't the right thing for me. I think there's a lot more peace knowing that the two of you have been prayerful about this all along. And like, I think that, and you know, maybe, I don't know, does that make sense what I'm saying? Like, it has the potential to ease the blow when you're like, we've been really entered into prayer to this, like we've entered into prayer about this, like not only together, but also separately. And so I have to trust that like God is speaking to this person in a way that God isn't speaking to me. And I have to just believe that, you know, this is part of God's plan for me too.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm kind of torn on it. I agree with Marie. Prayer and faith life has just been such an intimate part of my life, and just growing with it, that I'm just kind of accustomed to being more intimate, having that one-on-one relationship with God. So opening that up to someone else, let alone someone who I'm dating, it's different. It's a challenge for me. And I think it depends on what stage of dating you're in. So like if you are, I think it kind of sums up what both of you said, Jackie and Marie. It depends on where we are in our relationship. If we're obviously serious, then I definitely want to lead that with and through prayer. And by all means, like that should be huge. But if we're just getting to know each other, then definitely I'll keep praying, and I hope that you do too. But I don't necessarily feel comfortable praying with you at all times, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, I think Sam had some good comments. He's probably eating mac and cheese while he's typing them.
I want to share.
Go ahead.
Someone texted me and said the porn question on the second date is too soon, and that it's like he compared it to like asking a girl if she has like an eating disorder on the second date or something like that. Which I could see. I think I could see that. I don't know. Do you guys have any additional? I know we kind of covered that topic. I guess it's a hard thing. I think you have to be so sensitive about.
Yeah. Honestly, we could have a whole conversation about our body image and relationship with food and all that kind of stuff.
Oh yeah.
That I don't know how to answer that, but I kind of agree. Like that's what I kind of did that base. It's a little deep for me. Like even if I did or did not struggle with that, like that's what I would kind of relate it to also, like on a second date, right? Of like, I don't know much about you yet, you know?
So, I would hope the intent of that person asking that question, whether it's a guy asking about the eating disorder or the girl asking about porn addiction, it's coming from a good place, right? That's all we can do. We don't know what their intents are, but at the same time, like that's just too much. I don't know. It's just overwhelming. Now you've put too much pressure on this, and the whole purpose of dating, especially the first couple of dates we just said, was to take the pressure off. Like basically be a little less, be intentional, but not be so aggressive. There's one way to be intentional and being mindful and like getting all of your questions out without it sounding like an interview. But also not being so aggressive and forthright. I mean, kudos to her, whatever works for her. It obviously worked out for those two for a year, so great. But yeah, not the way I would go about it.
Yeah,
Someone had a question. I think it was Derek, about, is math too intense for a first date? So me personally, I don't know that intense would be the word, but like, I don't know what you're going to know about me other than like, I'm praying and that I kneel at the consecration. And then, you know, so like, I don't think it's intense necessarily, but again, I struggle with like just this image of this perfect Catholic relationship anyways. But if you feel called to that, I think the girl should hopefully be honest with you of like, yeah, come with me, or yeah, I'll go with you, or like, no, can we go to dinner instead? I don't know. Do you guys have any opinions?
I think this is an example of where, like, I don't know, I'm kind of at a place in my life that I feel like I would prefer to date people that I already have an established like friendship with. Because I don't know, like maybe that, the boys are everywhere right now. They're in Slack, chat, they're texting me, they're just everywhere. What was I gonna say about that?
You're saying you want to date someone. No, you're good. I also kind of revised my statement that like, I don't know that I want to go to mass on the first date, to be honest.
Yeah.
But the question, you were saying like, you, Mary Kate, probably wouldn't date somebody unless you were good friends first. So like, would it be weird for you or intense to go to mass with them?
Maybe like I'll find that that like God will surprise me, but I have so many like good male friends in my life, and I just kind of feel like that's so important to me. Like that is so important to me to be able to have a friendship with that person. So have you guys have you guys done any reading or anything about Saint Therese of Lisieux and her parents?
Oh my gosh.
I haven't.
Basically, like, if I am called to marriage, which is a question. If I'm called to marriage, I want my marriage to look like that. And it is a basis of friendship. And then like everything else is sort of, well, I guess I don't want to say everything is secondary to that, but like the foundation is like really a friendship in Christ. And I think that is like what it has to be. Like if I can't be friends with you, this is not gonna work, you know? And like, to be honest, like I don't even know if I have to have a ton in common with that person. If I can't like be friends with you, like hang out with you, or like just like chill with you, this is not the right thing for me.
Yeah.
And also like, I think I've just had so much like pain and like so many wounds attached to like so many relationships I've had, that I'm just kind of at a point that trust is really hard for me in the beginning. And to like date, like the opportunity to date someone that I already have established trust with because we're friends, that feels so much more appealing to me. Like I think I would be so much more relaxed and so much more like free to enjoy that experience than if it's like a total stranger who like approaches me, you know, at a bar or whatever else. I don't know. Does that make sense what I'm saying?
Hey, speaking my language. What?
I know, Pri, you and I are gonna go out. I'm kidding. Bad joke. Mary Kate, you said something. My jokes are not funny. I laugh at them myself with nobody else. Okay. You said something about something and it slipped my mind. I was gonna comment on it. Friendship. Okay, sorry, really quick. My priest at Georgia Tech was amazing, and still is. He gave the same homily at every nuptial mass, so all my friends' weddings basically. And he would talk about the 4 types of love and like the highest form of love and all that. And then he was like, friendship is the basis of any marriage, any relationship. And he literally looked at the congregation and all of these. I probably went to like 5 to 10 different masses by him with some of my friends, and he literally would be like, all of you guys struggling in your marriage, like get back to that friendship, especially couples that are like really, really, really struggling. So anyways, are you still there for the gate? Because I see your
She said she's listening.
Screenshot.
Oh. It's a great picture, by the way.
I know.
No, great
it's like
picture.
A model.
Right?
I know.
That's literally a model shot.
Oh, there she is.
Anyways.
There she is.
You're on mute. I said, it's like
You're still on mute.
Still.
There you go. You're good.
Oh, there you go.
Sorry.
I said you look like a model. I was talking to you.
Talking about the picture that comes up when you leave.
Yeah, you look like a model.
I don't think
you know, I have like the most corporate picture.
I don't think
Jackie, you too. Your picture's like a model on your Facebook.
Oh, is it?
Mine's like me in the mountains with a hat.
Me in my element.
And the sunglasses, you can't even tell who I am. Anyways, I don't know what I'm saying. I think friendship, agree with you, basis of any relationship.
I agree.
Question that someone has. When, if ever, should a girl offer to pay for a date?
Oh
gosh.
Boy.
Oh, gosh.
I hate this stuff. Okay, like I would be willing to pay for a date if we're like beyond the point of like when things are not so formal, you know? So like I think I don't know. I hate this question. I don't think that like the men should always have to
Canceled.
pay. What?
This question's canceled.
Canceled. No. Sorry. I mean, this has come up in Slack before, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, I don't think that women should have to pay. Let's put it this way: first 3 dates, way hard no.
I agree.
Maybe after that, if you like are in a place like that, things are more casual and it's not so formal, and you like know each other a little like well enough to recognize that it's no longer like, I don't know. That's such a hard question. I don't know.
I think that's the thing. It's not black and white in my opinion, right? Like there's no like for example, 3 dates with a stranger. Like I kind of would still expect him to keep paying because I have no idea. Like he's got to pursue me, right? Because I don't know him. Now in your case, Mary Kate, like, or not just your case, but if you know the guy super well and you guys are good friends, right? Like, okay, a few dates might be like these really long, like 6-hour conversations, right? And you like know each other pretty well. So I don't know. I personally I don't think there's a hard and fast rule, but I think you have to be at a very significant point to like, you know, kind of draw that line where you're not expecting it anymore.
I'm laughing at you. I'm laughing at Dan's comment.
Me?
MK. But I agree with you. Just Dan's comments on your chairs. I guess they're black and white. I don't know. Very bizarre.
Yeah.
Zach. Hey, Zach.
Yeah. I think.
Wait, did we miss a question?
Black.
What there's
Cool Z. No, sorry. Wait, you guys, I'm so sorry. What who was talking? Let's go back.
I think we answered the question, didn't we?
Yeah, I was just gonna say I agree, and that it's not fair, I guess, to expect the guy to pay for everything past like the 4th, 5th date. I don't know. I mean, once you're in a relationship, I think it's much easier to kind of start splitting things. I don't know if you guys agree.
I agree.
I don't know. I guess it depends on the financial situation once you get into a relationship with each person too. I don't know.
I'm kind of torn on this because kind of like Marie, I was thinking more like along the lines of it depends where you are and what state you're in, like what stage of your relationship you're in. Also, if you have this like friendship there and the conversations last longer, then that bill is not going to be cheap, regardless of what he's making. I think so the girl should at least offer to pay. Obviously, if the guy is you would hope that would take the full bill, but also being respectful of that and understanding that you have that fundamental friendship if you are seeing someone who was a friend before and now you're exploring other avenues.
Right. Well, and that's the other thing. Okay, so like for example, I guess I have two additional thoughts about this. My, like friends who are guys, I'll like order food and like, I don't know, I'll order food and like pay for the other person and it's like not a big deal. I'm like, yeah, whatever. Like, it's an $8 burrito or something, like not a big deal. Whatever. If you have cash on you, sure. Like toss me $8. You don't have to, it's not a big deal. But then on the flip side of that also, I think that, what was I just going to say? Flew out of my head. With the thought.
That's been me like 3 times.
Oh, I know what I was going to say. It is always, okay, my best friend from high school always talks about how Venmo is the best place to like really stalk people. It's weird.
True.
Guys, I still don't want to be offended by this. It's weird when couples are Venmoing each other for stuff. Unless, well, maybe that's not fair. Unless it's like, you know what, if you're going to Venmo your significant other for stuff, don't make it public so that other people can see. How about that? Like, I don't know. I just feel
why does it matter? It's Venmo.
What'd you say, Marie?
Why does it matter? It's Venmo. It's like
so weird. It's like, I know. It's just weird.
Who cares if you're like, if everyone sees that like you paid your boyfriend like $20? Like,
well, it's like we're going to Starbucks and like we get coffee. Like I have to Venmo you for my coffee. You're my boyfriend. Like, you know what I mean? Like that's weird. I don't know.
I don't think it's weird at all. It's the same thing as like
these words out loud. Never mind. This is what the thought I should have kept to myself.
I don't think that's weird because like it's the same thing of being like, oh yeah, no, you don't need to pay for me. Like you paid for me last time, whatever. Especially if it's your boyfriend. Like, oh, but I don't have any cash. Let me just Venmo you tonight. And it's like, to me, it's not that big of a deal.
Or it's like doing acts of kindness. Like you might think like, oh, he's been picking up the tab the last couple of times, like maybe I'll buy him coffee today or like something. I do that with my friends too, where I know that they've had a shitty week and I'll Venmo them $5 for coffee. Yep. I think it just shows like you're invested in that relationship in one way or another. And now there's money involved. Great.
I totally Yep. Yep. I totally agree.
Okay. I'm sorry. I'm laughing at this Zoom date thing. And Zach shutting it down. I'm laughing at this Zoom date idea. But also, it's actually funny. Go ahead.
Also, Kevin and Dan sent the most ridiculous gift to Slack.
Oh no.
It's really funny. Okay.
General. Oh gosh.
Let's talk about it, says Marnie.
Let's talk about
what are your thoughts on a Zoom date? So I mean,
actually,
the thing is,
someone asked me this weekend, and I told him that if someone that I was talking to this weekend said I went on a date with a girl prior to quarantine, I wanted to ask her on a second date, then quarantine started. Is it weird for me to ask her on a second date Zoom? And I said, no, that's not weird. That's literally the same as long distance dating. Like when you talk to people on the phone or like Skype or something. Yeah. Like it's literally the same thing from my perspective. That's not weird. Actually, what was weird is if you didn't call her for 6 weeks and then quarantine over and all of a sudden you were like, I'm back, like.
Don't submarine into your life. Like don't submarine back. No need.
Like, what?
It's a moot point. The youth call it submarining, where they go in and then they go and then they come back.
I like that term. It's a good one.
But I also think like Zoom is formal. It's like it's the same thing as if you just called her multiple times and then you FaceTimed, like, but if you want to have a formal dinner, you can also FaceTime and have dinner together, like virtually. Like I have a friend that met a guy online and he actually did that. And what was actually cool? He ordered takeout for her and had it delivered to her house during quarantine. I was like, that's so like kind of creative. Like I would be like, oh, interesting, but also really cool. So.
Wow, that's cute.
That is cute.
Can you officially award Dan the comment of the night, MK? What was the comment, Sam?
I think it was
Dan
about
has great
chairs.
points throughout.
About the chairs.
Dan, I don't know if that was
Is it
kind
the
of,
chair comment?
yeah, it was funny.
What was it about? I didn't get it.
Okay, so in Slack yesterday, I was like telling everyone that I have been painting these chairs in my I've been painting furniture the last week, and I was painting these chairs black, and then I was like cleaning all the stuff that I like painted with, and it like occurred to me that everything in my parents' house is white, like literally, like the countertops are white, the sinks are white, and I like kind of started to have a little bit of a panic attack of like, oh my gosh, if I get black paint on anything and I miss it and it dries, I will be burned at the stake.
Oh God. Hopefully your parents have mercy.
We'll bring you a bill with
So I
that
was saying
loud
that
print.
yesterday in Slack. Dan said it's not black and white, like the chairs in MK's house, which is funny. Poor Dan, he's never
got it.
realizes jokes like this.
People keep affirming me when I crochet, make memes, so can't stop, won't stop. I mean, I kind of like that. Like, are there any memes out of this? Next boys live stream, they have to pronounce all of our names. I feel like mine being culturally different. That's how we're gonna say it in the most
Dan.
way.
Oh, Dan.
So is mine.
The
Mine's
names.
Portuguese. Dan, I am proud of you. I just have to tell you, I emphasized at the beginning that my name was Marie Aside,
You
but
did.
I didn't follow it up with, yeah, I'm emphasizing it because of last night, but yeah.
Well, Dan said he
Double
didn't know who I was. He doesn't know who Jackie is. So
What did he say?
Jaquay.
Dan doesn't know who Jackie is, only
Pre-
Jaquay.
Jaquay. Jaquay is now your alter ego.
That's like
My alter ego.
That's like purgatory for me. Oh gosh, if priests are going to purgatory, where's room for me?
okay. Did we like cover everything? Is there anything else you guys want to mention?
I have
How
the
much?
hardest question that was previously asked in the live stream.
Okay.
What drink sponsored us tonight?
I'm not drinking, so is anyone else drinking?
A little bit.
I am stone cold sober right now.
Hey.
Marie?
Courtesy
Marie.
of Ramblers.
Of what? Pri, what do you have?
H2O, courtesy of the Ramblers.
Nice.
I thought you had wine in there.
I did. That was the first hour of this.
Yes.
That is a horrible suggestion. Kevin.
I have a $2 check.
Kevin, are you trying to destroy friendships?
I thought they had asked us. I thought they had asked us to talk positively
No,
about.
absolutely not.
I am not participating in this.
No, hear me out. Conspiracy theory, Mary Kate.
Kevin, horrible.
That's Kevin's way of trying to shut us down before we beat the guys in terms of how long we're alive.
Yeah. Also, guys, gotta say, we have 33 people watching right now. Is that right? So we
I
have
think so. Did
We
we
already-
beat the guys?
Oh, 31 now, but
Oh,
in numbers tonight, which I'm pretty impressed about. Also, I think we've gotten an additional 15 subscriptions in the last 2 hours.
incredible.
hey.
Subscriptions, right? I feel like,
I hope this lived up to the hype.
Back. Friends party.
okay. Wow, you guys,
Oh,
we covered
are
some
we
good.
done?
Anything, Marie, don't you have a bedtime?
She's way past her bedtime.
Yeah, I'm 17. Actually, that would be like 10. No, I just told you guys I have like meetings from, anyways, all day, like starting at 8 a.m. So I just didn't want to go to like midnight. No, the last thing I was gonna say that I keep losing my train of thought. Oh, that we didn't talk about here, but we were texting about is like if you don't have a lot of a dating experience, like doesn't always mean that that's like the worst thing. And all of us were like relating in that of just like comparison. I think with other relationships and other girls, it's like I know plenty of relationships that have worked out, been very healthy, even though they haven't dated many people before. So that's just my last thing.
100%. I used to talk to my sister about this a lot. I think that for women who have dated a lot, it can actually be kind of painful, and you like kind of sustain a lot of wounds, I think, that make dating harder, and make relationships in general harder. I think there's like actually a great gift and a great grace in not having dated a lot. My sister and I used to talk about this a lot because she didn't have a ton of dating experience before she met her husband. And like, I'm not joking, you guys, like, I think like 2 or 3 months before she met her husband, she actually, it was less than that. I think it was maybe a month before. We were sitting in her apartment and talking about like dating. And she was kind of lamenting to me, like, I need to like be different. Like I need to change. Because I'm like she kind of got exasperated with me at one point because I was encouraging her, and she was kind of like, he's not going to just fall out of the sky, Mary Kate. And I was like, actually he might. And then like, that's pretty much what happened with her husband. And like from the first night, like, I was there the night they met, and I'm not kidding you guys. I looked at them like talking. They were in my kitchen. I looked at them talking, and I looked at my other sister, and I was like, she's going to marry him. And that's literally what happened. Like, that's literally all it takes. And so like, for anyone who feels discouraged and did that is literally all it takes. It just takes that one time. And it's also, just a huge grace to not have been through like the rejection and the wounding that happens in dating.
Yeah.
That's my comment.
For sure. Sorry, I wasn't laughing at.
No, I figured you were laughing
at you saying the one thing. The one thing that I was laughing at is like, all it takes is that you like tell your sister something. Like, I'm gonna marry that guy.
Yeah, that's all it takes. Actually, yeah.
I'm just kidding.
That's totally true. Someone said that once. I was talking to somebody, and we were talking about like, and then he like wrote her a letter and this whole thing, and it was this like, very dramatic, like relationship story that someone had. And one of our guy friends was listening, and he was like, that is only cute when it works out. When it doesn't work out, it's creepy. And like, not to say that should like discourage you, but like, there are definitely those stories of people, like, there are far more stories of it not working out and it being, you look back and you're like, cringe, than like, but again, not to discourage you, because it just takes that one time, which is beautiful. Praise God.
Yeah, totally agree.
Hosting a party and says you're going to get married.
What?
Especially if Mary Kate is hosting a party and says you're going to get married to that person.
To make some pretty prophetic judgments on these things, you guys. So keep me around.
Divine intervention.
We will.
I know. Yeah. So I'm just teasing.
Jackie?
Swedish fish theory. Dahmer. Why are you guys like, you guys are so weird in the chat right now.
No, I don't even know what's going on.
Dahmer.
What are these things?
Zach is exactly right. What's funny is most of these guys are not listening to this conversation, but rather commenting towards each other.
Yeah, they're just talking to each other.
Yep. Percent true.
LOL Marty's comment. Actually, the manor is Winchester South.
Okay, Marty.
All right.
No,
Dan had the last
listening.
question.
Dan asked,
What's the most, leave it to the seminarian. What's the most memorable thing? What did you say?
What is his?
Dan wants to hear date stories.
Memorable thing, funny, nice, or awkward? Oh gosh.
I have some stories I could tell. I don't know if they're worth telling.
And into our next episode, maybe we'll talk about it.
I don't have anything good enough that would be entertaining.
Yeah, I don't think I have anything good enough that's like
that they would actually enjoy hearing.
Yeah, I don't know.
What's in your head right now?
No,
Is that a tripod?
This is a casual.
I'm holding it. I don't know what I'm doing. I like need something in my hands. Oh, Zach's leaving. That's sad. Dan grabs popcorn. You guys, how much time do we have? Marie, do you need to go to bed? I don't know if this is worthwhile. Probably 2 stories I could tell.
I mean, it's been like over 2 hours.
Yeah.
So.
For 2 hours?
Yeah.
Yes. It's 10:30.
Is there more questions? We still have 34 viewers, guys.
I know the people.
More questions. Come on.
I guess
Marty.
Marty asked if this was a telescope.
bringing it back in.
Let's go.
Yes,
try
those go.
Like,
What
what
do
do
you
you
think,
like to
Bree?
do on your first date? Like, does it have to be super generic and like you go on out for drinks or coffee, or do you
I
want
just,
something like more like an activity, or do you want something like dinner for a first date, second date?
I like activity. That's my personal. Actually, go ahead, Marie.
isn't that all? Like, I agree with you. I think like I like activity and doing stuff, but I think every girl is different, honestly. Some girls really love going to nice places and trying new restaurants and new food, and some girls have to be outside because they're just like ADD, you know?
Yeah, I think it depends.
So
For sure.
I don't mind.
I think guys, like, advice would be
Coffee.
just like talk to her and get to know her and what she likes to do. And again, like, as women, be receptive. Like, if they ask you if they want to take you to a certain place, like, just be clear if you don't want to go or if you don't like that kind of food or like whatever it is. And hopefully guys would understand.
Yep. For a first date once, I would say this is in the top first dates I've ever been on. First date, this guy took me up to Holy Hill in Wisconsin, which is like kind of an intense commitment for a first date because you like have to be in the car together and stuff.
Yeah. Wow.
But it was awesome. And then we went to mass and it was a really good first date. And then it's like you're like doing something, but there's also like time for conversation, but it's not so focused. Like you're not just like staring at each other from across the table. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. Any additional thoughts about that? What do you guys want to do? Should we call it? I don't know.
Probably out in the next 10 minutes.
In the next 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Does
Yeah.
anyone have any stories they want to share
Puts popcorn back.
Yeah.
I actually really want popcorn right now. Now that I say that.
What'd you say, Marie?
I really want popcorn.
It actually sounds really good. I've been eating Reese's like their popcorn.
Same. My mom mailed me a whole pack for Easter from Atlanta, like Reese's Cups, and I just keep eating them.
You haven't eaten them?
I keep eating them, and I'm not supposed to be eating it, but here I am.
My mom said she didn't buy a lot of Easter candy, and then I was like digging through our cabinets, and I found Reese's, and I was like, she's been moving out, and now I took them. Just being All right.
Favorite candy? Go. Reese's Pieces.
Reese's.
Reese's for sure.
Or
The Easter eggs.
Yep.
Easter eggs.
Yep.
Easter eggs? Oh, with the chocolate or peanut butter inside?
There's more peanut butter.
I don't know, something chocolate. I like the chocolate covered raspberries, but are those really candy? I don't really know.
So good. That sounds amazing, actually.
I don't know.
Well, guys, should we close in prayer?
Yes. Let's.
Okay. Does someone else want to pray, or do you guys want me to pray?
Close us out.
I don't mind.
Okay. Oh, or Marie.
Oh, Marie, you're going to close us out, you said? Or you want me to
I
close us out?
can. I don't care. I don't care.
Okay.
Do you want to do it, or do you want me to do it?
I'll do it.
Okay. Father, Son,
Holy Spirit, amen. Lord, thank you so much for this time together, and for these other women, Lord, to grow in friendship and fellowship with you. I just pray for everybody that participated tonight and watched, Lord, that you would just instill some sort of truth or growth in them with any of the content that we said, Lord. I just pray that we continue to serve you and glorify you in our relationships with the other sex. And I just pray for all of us, all of our vocations, our future spouses, Lord, if that's your will, and all those right now that are really suffering in this time of COVID, and help us all to just be safe and healthy and enjoy the time together. In your name I pray, amen.
Amen.
Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Amen.
Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Amen. Thanks, guys. This was awesome.
For
So
watching, everyone.
next week, do we want to do this again? Yes, no, maybe.
Yeah, I'm down.
Yeah, I'm down.
Fine
I'm
about
actually
it.
going
Show up.
home to Atlanta, so
So is that
I'll be
doable,
there.
Marie, or no? You'll be in Atlanta.
yeah, I'll
Okay.
do it for my plan.
All right. Well, thanks, guys. Talk to you in Slack.
Bye.